Most people slow down when they pass Gary Alcott's house, not because anything unusual happens there, because of the tortoise. It lived in a low wooden pen beside the front steps, just visible from the sidewalk. Large and unhurried, with a shell the color of old bark, it had been there so long that most people on the block couldn't remember a time before it. Kids from the neighborhood had names for it that Gary never corrected. He just smiled when they leaned over the fence and let them think whatever they wanted. Gary was 54, a trim man with a close-cut beard who worked in facilities management for the county school district. He kept to himself the way some people do, not unfriendly, just contained. He waved from the driveway. He brought in his trash cans the same night they were emptied. He fed the tortoise every morning at 7, without fail, before he did anything else. That was the detail Patrice Owens had noticed first when she moved in across the street 6 years earlier. The man with the tortoise, up before anyone, out on the porch in whatever the weather happened to be doing, setting out a shallow dish of leafy greens like it was the most natural thing in the world. The ambulance came on a Tuesday in October, just after 6 in the morning. Patrice watched from her kitchen window, coffee in hand. She didn't know what had happened. She found out later it was his heart. Nothing catastrophic, but serious enough. He was going to be in the hospital for at least 3 days, possibly more. By mid-morning, she was standing on his porch, having gotten the address from another neighbor who had Gary's emergency contact on file from a block association form 2 years old. She knocked twice, heard nothing, and stood there for a moment, feeling uncertain. Then she looked down at the tortoise pen and thought about the dish. She let herself through the gate, found the food supply in a labeled bin just inside. He had left it organized, as though he'd had some sense something was coming, and filled the dish. When she lifted the ceramic water bowl to rinse it, a folded piece of paper came with it, stuck underneath by a small square of waterproof tape. She almost set it aside. She told herself it wasn't her business, but the paper was addressed in careful handwriting to whoever is reading this, and that was her, so she read it. Gary had written it 4 years earlier. The note explained that the tortoise's name was Dot, which no one on the block had ever known, and that Dot had belonged to his mother Meredith before she died. Meredith had kept the tortoise for nearly 30 years, first in a house in Tucson, then in a small apartment when she could no longer manage the house, and finally, in her last 2 years, in Gary's front yard, where she could see it from the porch chair he set up for her on good weather days. When Meredith died, Gary hadn't been able to give the tortoise away. He wrote that he understood how that sounded. He said he just wasn't ready for the yard to look like she had never been there. The note ended with a practical list: feeding amounts, a vet's number, preferred greens, how Dot liked to be left alone in the early afternoon. And then one last line, not addressed to anyone in particular. If you're taking care of her now, thank you. She's had a good life. So did we. When Gary came home 5 days later, he walked past the front door and went straight to the pen. Patrice was watching from across the street. She didn't say anything. Some things don't need to be said out loud. She had already put the note back under the bowl, exactly where she found it.